Imagine a room. 15 people. One person is talking the loudest, telling stories, trying to be funny, interrupting others, checking whose eyes are on them. Another person is standing quietly near the back. They speak occasionally, not often. When they do, people stop and listen. Not because of volume, because of presence. The loudest person in the room is not always the most confident. Sometimes, they are the most desperate to be noticed. Let me give you a truth that might bother you. People who genuinely value themselves do not spend all day trying to convince everyone else to value them too. That sounds simple. But if you look honestly at the world, at social media, at workplaces, at relationships, you will notice that most people are performing a version of themselves designed to extract attention from others. They are not living. They are broadcasting. And broadcasting is not confidence. It is often the opposite. Let me explain what is happening beneath the surface. Attention feels powerful. It creates recognition, social status, temporary importance, emotional reward chemicals. And modern life has optimized everything to make you crave it. Every single one of these is a tiny injection of emotional significance. And here is the problem. Your brain has been conditioned to treat attention as survival. Not figuratively. Neurologically. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Which means, without awareness, you can become emotionally dependent on other people's reactions just to feel stable. Most people do not realize they are addicted to attention, because addiction is usually associated with substances. But behavioral addiction is just as real. And attention-seeking is one of the most normalized addictions in modern culture. You cannot go one day without seeing someone oversharing personal drama, fishing for reassurance, performing emotional distress, exaggerating achievements, seeking reactions constantly. And the culture rewards it. More views, more engagement, more relevance. But relevance is not the same as substance. And visibility is not the same as confidence. Let me explain how this works psychologically. For most people, attention is enjoyable. That is normal. But for some people, and this is where the problem starts, attention stops being enjoyable and becomes psychological fuel. Without it, they feel invisible, irrelevant, anxious, emotionally restless. So, they seek reactions constantly. Not because they want attention, but because silence feels like disappearing. 1. Volume inflation. You speak louder than necessary. You exaggerate your emotions. You make everything sound more dramatic than it is, because drama generates reactions. 2. Oversharing as currency. You reveal personal information too quickly, not because of connection, but because vulnerability forces people to respond. 3. Reaction fishing. You post things designed to provoke opinions, bait, controversial statements, vague emotional updates. You are not expressing, you are hunting. 4. Emotional inconsistency. Your mood fluctuates based on how much attention you received. Good day equals lots of reactions. Bad day equals silence. This is the clearest sign of dependency. Here is the cruel irony. The more emotionally dependent you become on attention, the less attractive you become to others. Because people unconsciously sense desperation, neediness, emotional instability. And their instinct is to pull away, which makes you crave more attention, which makes you appear more desperate. The dependency creates exactly what it fears, rejection and invisibility. What confident people actually do differently. People with genuine confidence still enjoy appreciation. They are not robots. They like being recognized, respected, valued. But, and this is the difference, they are not emotionally controlled by it. Their self-worth remains relatively stable regardless of how much attention they receive. Because they have built something most people never build. An internal validation system. The architecture of internal validation. An internal validation system means your identity is not dependent on external approval. Your emotional stability is not tied to how others react. You can experience silence without interpreting it as rejection. You do not need constant reassurance to feel valuable. This does not happen by accident. It is built deliberately. How it is built? The 3 foundations. Foundation 1. Self-knowledge. You know who you are, not who you are performing for others. You have done the inner work of understanding your values, not your social media bio values, your actual values. Your strengths and weaknesses, honestly what you want independent of what impresses others. Foundation 2. Self-approval. You have learned to approve of yourself. Not arrogantly. Not pretending to be perfect. But internally, I am acceptable. I am worthy of respect. I do not need to prove this. Foundation 3. Emotional regulation. You can sit with discomfort without reacting immediately. Someone ignores you? You do not panic. You receive criticism? You evaluate it instead of defending. You are invisible in a room? You remain calm. I will be honest with you. Building an internal validation system is uncomfortable. because it requires periods where you receive no external validation. And you must learn to be okay. That silence will feel like withdrawal at first, because it is withdrawal. Your nervous system has been trained to expect external hits of significance. When you remove them, you will feel empty, restless, like you are disappearing. That feeling is not weakness. That feeling is healing. And if you sit through it instead of running back to attention, you will become freer than most people ever experience. Let me show you something most people miss. Insecurity is not always quiet. Insecurity is often performative, dominating, aggressively confident seeming. Many people have learned to perform confidence so convincingly that even they believe it. But performance is not the same as substance. The three masks of insecurity. Mask 1. The dominator. This person controls conversations, interrupts constantly, needs to be right, cannot tolerate being ignored. They appear powerful, but watch closely, their power is fragile. The moment they are not the center of attention, they become agitated. That is not confidence. That is insecurity wearing a mask of dominance. Mask 2. The performer. This person is always on. Funny, charismatic, entertaining, emotionally dramatic. They are the life of the party. But privately, they cannot stop. If the attention fades, they feel worthless. Their performance is not expression. It is survival. Mask 3. The martyr. This person seeks attention through suffering. They share their pain publicly, not to heal, but to receive sympathy, concern, and emotional caretaking from others. Their identity becomes the one who is struggling. And they resist actual solutions, because solutions would remove the attention their suffering provides. Here is what happens when you stop performing. At first, people may think you are shy, or boring, or antisocial, because society has confused volume with value. But over time, something shifts. People begin to notice. You do not react desperately. You do not need constant attention. You are comfortable in silence. That comfort feels powerful, because most people are not comfortable in silence. They are terrified of it. When you can sit quietly, emotionally stable, without needing anything from anyone, your presence becomes rare. And rarity, in a world of noise, is power. Let me explain a psychological principle called the scarcity principle of attention. When someone does not need your attention, you unconsciously want to give them more of it. Because their lack of need signals. They have value independent of you. They are emotionally complete. They do not require your approval to function. This triggers curiosity. And curiosity is the foundation of attraction, socially, professionally, romantically. Watch what happens socially. Person A talks constantly, needs recognition, interrupts to assert relevance, cannot tolerate being ignored, emotionally reactive. Person B speaks calmly, does not force attention, emotionally steady, comfortable with silence, does not chase reactions. Now, who appears more powerful? Logically, person A seems more dominant. But instinctually, person B feels more grounded. And in social dynamics, perceived groundedness is interpreted as higher status. The more you chase power, the less powerful you appear. The more you chase attention, the less attractive you become. The more you chase validation, the less valuable you seem. This is the power paradox. True social power does not come from taking attention. It comes from not needing it. Real power looks like someone who does not react to provocation. Someone who does not need to prove themselves. Someone who can be ignored and remain calm. Someone whose value does not fluctuate with external feedback. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is fragile confidence pretending to be strong. This is groundedness. And groundedness is what people actually respect. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. When someone visibly craves attention, people unconsciously sense emotional dependency. And dependency changes how you are perceived. Not consciously, but instinctively. The person who needs attention appears less powerful, less stable, less trustworthy, less attractive. Not because they are bad people, but because humans instinctively trust emotional independence. Someone who does not need us to feel okay, feel safe. You feel invisible, you seek attention to feel visible. Your attention-seeking reads as desperate, people unconsciously distance themselves. Their distance makes you feel more invisible, you seek attention more aggressively. Cycle repeats. The more desperate you are to be seen, the less people want to look. Evolutionarily, humans are wired to detect need. Not consciously, but instinctively. Because in ancestral environments, emotional neediness was a signal. Lower resource access, lower stability, higher potential burden. Today, that instinct still operates. When you seem emotionally dependent on attention, people unconsciously categorize you as lower in social value. Not because they are cruel, Because the mechanism is ancient. The only way out is paradoxical. Stop trying to be seen. When you stop chasing attention, two things happen. First, your behavior changes. You become calmer, less reactive, less performative. Second, people unconsciously notice. The lack of desperation signals stability. Stability signals confidence. Confidence attracts attention, the kind you no longer need. The moment you stop needing attention is often the moment you start receiving it. Let me give you a framework. The opposite of attention-seeking is not isolation. It is unattached presence. Unattached presence means you are present in the room but you do not need the room to validate you. You engage without demanding. You contribute without performing. You exist without requiring reaction. Step 1. Silence training. Practice being in social situations without speaking. Not because you are shy, but because you are choosing presence over performance. Feel the discomfort of not contributing. Sit in it. Realize that your value in the room does not decrease when you are silent. Step 2. Reaction weaning. Gradually reduce how much you check reactions to your content, your words, your presence. Post something without checking for likes. Speak without looking for approval. Exist without monitoring how you are being perceived. Step 3. Emotional self-sufficiency. Practice generating emotional stability internally. Before seeking reassurance from others, ask yourself, am I okay right now? Do I actually need someone else's response to feel stable? Often, the answer is no. You just believe you need it because you are conditioned to seek it. Step 4. Identity detachment. Do not attach your identity to roles that require attention. You are not the entertainer. You are not the influencer. You are not the one people notice. You are a human being, and your worth does not depend on being seen. When you practice unattached presence consistently, your emotional stability becomes independent of external conditions. Your social value increases because you are not desperately seeking it. Your relationships improve because you are not draining them for validation. Your presence becomes memorable because it is rare. Let me be direct with you. Here is the truth most people avoid. Some people are not expressing themselves online or socially. They are emotionally begging to feel important. That is not an insult. It is an observation, and it applies to more people than want to admit it. Ask yourself honestly, 1. Would you still create if no one ever saw it? If you could never post, never share, never receive feedback, would you still do the work? If the answer is no, you are dependent on attention, not driven by purpose. 2. Can you tolerate being ignored? If someone does not respond, does not react, does not acknowledge you, does it destabilize you emotionally? If yes, your self-worth is too externally dependent. 3. Are you performing for reactions you do not genuinely want? How many things do you do for attention that you do not actually enjoy? Posts you force, conversations you dominate, personalities you perform. Answering these questions honestly is uncomfortable because it reveals how much of your behavior is driven by a need you did not choose. But awareness is the first step to freedom, and freedom from the need for attention is one of the most liberating states a human being can experience. When you recognize dependency, the path to freedom becomes visible, and the path is counterintuitive. Stop chasing, not because chasing is bad, because chasing signals lack, and lack repels what you want. At first, nothing, or worse, silence. Fewer likes, fewer reactions, fewer people noticing you. This silence will feel uncomfortable. Sit in it, because that discomfort is the addiction withdrawing. And if you push through it, something shifts. Phase 2, stabilization. Your nervous system recalibrates. You stop measuring your day by external metrics. You begin to feel okay without constant feedback. This is the beginning of emotional independence. Phase 3, natural attraction. When you no longer need attention, you become more attractive to receive it. Not because you tried, because your lack of need signals groundedness. And groundedness is magnetic. If you want to build real confidence, not performed confidence, here is a practical framework. Awareness. For one day, do not change anything. Just notice. Notice when you reach for your phone to post. Notice when you check for reactions. Notice when you talk louder to be heard. Notice when you feel invisible and uncomfortable. Do not judge. Just observe. Silence. For one full day, do not initiate any communication that seeks attention. No posts. No stories. No oversharing. Respond if people reach out. Do not chase. Day 3, internal validation. For one day, practice approving of yourself. At the end of the day, write down 3 things you genuinely valued about yourself. Not achievements. Not external recognition. Just you. Day 4, presence practice. For one day, practice being present without performing. In conversations, listen more than you speak. Do not prepare responses while the other person talks. Just be there. Day 5. Integration. Take everything you learned. Notice how your emotional state feels different. Notice if your need for attention has decreased. Notice if you feel more grounded. This is not a one-week fix. It is a lifestyle shift. You will relapse into attention-seeking. You will catch yourself performing. You will feel the pull of external validation. That is normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is increasing awareness and decreasing dependency. Every time you notice yourself seeking attention unconsciously, you have already won. Because awareness is the beginning of change. The people who need attention least are often the people most comfortable with themselves. And comfort with yourself, not performance, not dominance, not volume, is what real confidence actually is. Most people spend their entire lives trying to be seen by everyone, without realizing that emotional independence is what makes presence unforgettable. Here is what we covered today. Why attention is an invisible addiction. How insecurity disguises itself as confidence. What silent confidence actually looks like. Why desperation reduces social value. How to build an internal validation system. The practical framework for emotional independence. But here is the question you might be sitting with. What if I have already built my identity around being seen? What if my career, my relationships, my self-image depend on attention? How do I rebuild without losing everything? That is exactly what we will cover in the next episode. How to detach your identity from external validation without losing your edge. We will discuss how to separate your value from your visibility, how to remain relevant without being dependent, how to rebuild your identity from internal foundations, why the people who detach from attention often become more influential. Here is one last truth before you go. The most memorable people are not the loudest. They are the ones who do not need to be remembered. That paradox, the power of not needing, is what separates those who perform confidence from those who embody it. If this episode resonated with you, save it, revisit it, let it settle, because the shift from needing attention to embodying presence is one of the most powerful transformations you can experience. And it starts with one realization. Your worth does not decrease just because no one is looking.